Hi everyone, Master Crop here for Oaks Family Taekwondo. This is your intermediate video for your basics. Again, we're looking at stances and hand techniques. So to begin, we're going to start with our spear hand strike. What I'm going to have is two different spear hands. My hand's flat like a blade, and I'm going to hit with my fingertips on these ones. Now, notice when I hit something, if I have one finger that's extra long, one finger's not going to quite do it. So I want to be able to bend my fingers slightly so I have two or three in the same line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a horizontal spear hand, my chamber out like a punch, my other hand at my belt. This is going to pull back while I push forward, turning over flat. This would be a great one to the throat. Our other spear hand would be one coming into the solar plex, right underneath that rib cage. Same concept, chamber like a punch, other hand at your belt, but this time our hand's going to stay up and down for a vertical spear hand strike. Now, as we get to our green belt ranks, there's a favorite one for some of our students, which is our elbow strike. So if you take your elbow and you lay it flat, one important thing is this is not the pointy part of my elbow. That's going to be a bad day for you. Instead, if you put four of your fingers on the flat side of your elbow, that's what we want to hit with that part of the bone right there. Now you'll notice my hand is flat right here. A lot of students tend to do this. What that does is it rolls a muscle on your arm right over that bone. And a squishy muscle is not going to break a board, or if you're doing self-defense, someone as well as a nice flat bone. So let's try and keep that hand nice and flat so we're striking with that edge of the elbow. Again, not the pointy part, about four fingers right there is what we want to strike with. When we do this, I can come into the rib cage with my elbow. I can come up and turn a little bit more up to the jaw, which is where you'll start with some of these. I can come and rotate a little bit more. This would be a great shot to the jaw, the face, the nose, the ribs like we talked about. And so those three strikes are your individual new strikes. Let's talk about some combinations you should probably be practicing. First and foremost, you have a middle block and then a double punch. 1, 2. That's an important combination for your coordination to gain, as well as your sparring. What happens when you spar, people don't tend to stand there. They'll slide back or they'll block. So getting used to launching multiple attacks will allow you to overcome some of an opponent's defenses. Very important. Again, double punch. That's the name of the game. Changing gears, let's think about our blocks for a moment. So we talked about a couple of strikes. As an intermediate belt, you get to do a few that are a knife hand block. So as an example, an outer forearm block is chambering here. Hand comes outside the elbow, outside the face, rotates out, and turns. This time, the hand's just going to be a knife hand. Same idea, under the elbow, outside the elbow, past the face, turns and blocks. This can be used because obviously my knife hand is extended a little bit longer than my fist. And as a practical self-defense thing for black belts, you can use your knife hand and eventually go to an easier grab versus a closed hand. So your intermediate level block is going to be a knife hand outer forearm block. Yes, as you get through, that does mean there's a knife hand low block and even a knife hand high block. So play with those on your own. The main one you as an intermediate belt are going to want to practice is your knife hand outer forearm block. Okay, as an intermediate belt, there aren't any new stances, but there is an important thing that you should start practicing now, because this is going to help you learn how to generate power, and so break boards, create a powerful motion so you can push people, as well as demonstrate a skill level to pass your black belt test. Hint, hint. So what we're going to start with is a back stance. My back stance has an L with my feet, and I go 2 feet forward. In one of our forms, you're going to have a back stance with one of those single knife hand blocks we just talked about. You'll notice I'm too far to punch Bob. It's not going to work. So instead, I have to get closer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot to a front stance. Now I can reach Bob. So I've covered more distance. And an important concept, loading weight. My entire torso carries a lot of energy, so when it moves forward, there's a lot more force behind my punch than just me turning my hips. So the concept here is we're in our back stance. Notice my foot is in the red. We want to make sure that when we pivot, this foot does not just go to the side. That doesn't transfer my weight. What we want to have happen is I pivot and this foot shoots forward. So I cover some distance. That'll be a key mechanic in you being in your back stance, covering distance, getting closer, and striking. We'll see those more in our advanced belts, but this is the beginning as a intermediate student for some of your basics.